Hi, this is Tom Bergeron. You know what you're doing? You're listening to the Geekcast Radio Network.
We need 100 Smurfs. Do we have 100 Smurfs? I'd better find out.
Oh, Clumsy, what are we going to do?
Hello and welcome to an all-new generation of Toycast as we get the origins of any and all toy fans that we can. I'm, of course, TFG Mike, and today's featured guest was a senior writer at TV Guide and the respective website. After that, he launched his own website, TV Line. He is a television industry journalist, author, and actor. He is also a huge Smurfs fan. It's Michael Ausiello. Hello, Michael. How are you?
Hello. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for being here. It's time we started talking toys here on Toycast, and Michael is here because he wants to talk toys, but Michael wrote a book called Spoiler Alert, The Hero Dies, and that is going to be, it actually already is, because I've seen it, been made into a feature film featuring Jim Parsons as Michael, and it chronicles part of a very heartbreaking part of his life, and we are here to discuss parts of that without spoiling it. We're not going to spoil the spoiler alert. Why would we do that? Come on now.
It's in the title of my book.
I mean, the title does say it all. I mean, it's like, oh, okay, why do I need to go watch
the movie, you'll notice it's just spoiler alert. So I imagine there are going to be some folks who go see the movie and aren't going to be aware of the outcome.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely, absolutely. All right, so what is or was the first toy you remember having as a kid?
Miss Piggy doll / puppet.
Okay.
It was definitely the first toy that I was truly obsessed and loved. And it was, it was like, this is the late 70s. And I think I was maybe 7, maybe 6, 7-ish. And I'm sure I had toys before that, but none as memorable as this Miss Piggy puppet. And I was obsessed with the Muppet Show. I identified with Miss Piggy, although I did not know why at that young age. I now have come to realize that, she was a kindred spirit in a number of ways. But I was obsessed with Miss Piggy, and I remember getting this plush puppet for Christmas and being beside myself. And I was inseparable from it for at least 2 years.
Wow, that is awesome. Yes, Miss Piggy is definitely she's definitely a personality, isn't she?
She certainly is. Yes, I loved everything about her. But I also, one of the things that I loved about the stuffed animal was that Miss Piggy the doll came with like very realistic blonde hair that you could play with. And I was not allowed to collect Barbies because I was a boy, and that's just what the gender rules were back in the late 70s, early 80s. But I found sort of ways around the no Barbie rule, and getting this Piggy doll was one of the ways that I could have a doll with natural hair and put barrettes in it and curl it and play with it. And my dad didn't really know what was happening.
So that's very interesting, because the next question, was there a particular adult who was appreciative of your playing with toys as a kid, or was there anyone who was unsupportive?
Yeah, my mom was completely supportive. In fact, she was the one who would buy me not just the Miss Piggy doll for Christmas, but although I thought Santa got it for me at the time, but also take me to the supermarket to get barrettes to put in Miss Piggy's hair. My dad was not supportive of this, and I imagine that it caused some tension between them back then. But he made his discomfort with my preference of toys pretty well known. I remember one time he was playing cards with his buddies, and I walked in with my Miss Piggy doll, and I just remember my dad must have made some kind of crack, and they all laughed, and um, uh, it was not a support. He was not supportive of my choice of toys.
That sucks.
Yeah.
So, other than Miss Piggy, what types of toys were your favorites to play with? Like action figures, the dolls, this, that, whatever.
I like stuffed animals. Like I was a big, fan of stuffed animals for whatever reason. But I also did like action figures. I was very much into Star Wars. I was obsessed with Star Wars, and definitely for the first one. And when Empire Strikes Back came back, it really ratcheted up, and I had all the play sets and was collecting all the figures. And eventually, that would lead to the Smurf infestation.
I was going to say obsession, but okay, infestation, that works.
Infestation. If you saw my bedroom when I was a kid, definitely an infestation.
That's awesome. So, since we're talking about this, what were your favorite childhood toys that really stood out more than the others?
Well, definitely Smurfs. I think, when I started collecting Smurfs, in the early 80s, probably like 82 or whatever, I don't know what it was about them, but there was just something about those little figurines that drew me in. I don't know if it was the color. I don't know if it was the size. I think part of it was that my friend across the street, Linda Sweeto, who introduced me to them, was collecting them, and I felt, I think, a little bit of competition with her. I remember going to the store for the first time and like seeing the collectible case on the counter and realizing that there were just so many of them, and I had to have them all. So I think, the Smurfs definitely stand out because it was an obsession. It started as a curiosity that developed into an obsession, and one that persists to this day.
Who is your favorite Smurfs character?
I think probably Vanity Smurf is one that I say often, just because I feel like he's the gay Smurf, and I identified with Vanity Smurf. Just a sort of a little bit of narcissism mixed with sort of sweetness and snarkiness. I also, I was partial to Smurfette because, again, the long, beautiful blonde hair. But I also was a big fan of Ausiello, Gargamel's sidekick, the cat.
The cat, yep.
Yeah, he was a little pisser.
Yeah, he was. Yeah, he was. Oh, man. So, not that we all like labels, but toys have several labels to them. Do you prefer the label of action figures, dolls, toys, or other labels?
Toys, I think, would be my preference. Yep. It's a sort of all-encompassing. Action figures, I feel like, is very sort of a narrow label. I definitely don't consider Smurfs action figures. I would say toys.
Absolutely. All right, awesome. Good guys or bad guys? Which toys were your favorites to play with the most?
Oh. It went back and forth, but, my favorite Star Wars character was Darth Vader. My favorite Muppet was Miss Piggy. I think a case could be made. She was a little bit of a villainess. But at the same time, I loved Princess Leia and Han Solo. It went back and forth. I would say if I had to pick one, though, I'd give the edge to the bad guys.
Yeah. I don't know if Miss Piggy really was Villainous, though. I don't.
I mean, she was beating up Kermit all the time. I mean, she was hitting a lot of people. I mean,
Yes, well, okay, Kermit, I understand, and I can say, okay, yeah, that's not good. You shouldn't beat up your future frog husband. But some of the times when she was karate chopping people, it's because they did something to her. So my thought is, oh, she's standing up for herself. She's not going to take any shit. She's
I agree.
just not, So that's yeah.
Yeah, no, I know. That's why she's very complex. She's a very complex individual.
Absolutely. What is or was your favorite toy vehicle or playset?
Favorite playset would be Cloud City from Empire Strikes Back.
Mm-hmm.
I was obsessed with that set piece in that movie, partly because I remember Carrie Fisher looked so pretty in that gown. But I thought everything about Cloud City, there's just something so magical about it and so different from any other sort of set piece in the Star Wars universe. And I remember when the toy came out, I was just like, oh my God, I have to have that. I have to have it. I wish I still had it.
Yeah, that's one of the things about fictional media, film, television, whatever. They create these amazing, amazing things in certain films, and you're like, oh, that's going like Back to the Future. We should have all had, all the self-adjusting jackets, and we should have had that by now, but we don't, and that's fine. But like, the entertainment industry creates all this stuff for us, and it's like, ooh, that's what the future is going to be like. And sadly, it's not. But yeah, Cloud City was, oh man, that whole, you're right, that whole scene. I wish there was just one. They always talk about now about, oh, what's the next Star Wars thing? What's this? What's that? I want the Mandalorian to go to Cloud City. I want to see what Cloud City's up to.
Oh my God, I was just watching Andor, and I was like, please, I'm waiting for it too. I'm like, why has no one come into contact or, sort of passed through Cloud City?
I have not started watching Andor yet. I need to.
It's fantastic. It's the best of all the Star Wars series.
Really?
It's a little bit of a slow burn, but wow, it's so well done, and it feels like such an original idea. Even though I know that it's a prequel to Rogue One, it feels more than any of the other Star Wars shows like just a wholly original, but also very much in the Star Wars universe. And it's incredible. I can't recommend it more.
I don't even, we've done in 14 years here at the Geekcast Radio Network over 10 hours of Star Wars content, from the original trilogy to the prequels to the sequels to this to that to whatever. And we covered Rogue One and Force Awakens, and that was back whenever 2015, 2017, whenever they originally came out. I do not remember a single thing from Rogue One. So me starting at Andor now, I like that. This is the one time that I don't mind something as a prequel, because I can start at the prequel without having to have already seen what comes after, because I can then watch, after I watch Andor, I can go and watch Rogue One. It's, oh, okay, this movie is actually good. And I'm not saying the movie's bad. I'm not saying that at all. It's just, I don't remember I do remember a single thing from that movie. I remember the end when Vader shows up. That's what I remember. That's all I remember.
I remember loving Rogue One. I remember that one feeling the most like the original three movies, just in terms of capturing the tone and the visual spectacle of Star Wars. It felt, I don't know, there was just something about it. But I agree. I don't remember a ton of it, and like as I watch Andor, certain little Easter egg things are like, oh yeah, I remember that. But for generally speaking, I feel like I'm in a whole new world.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what I'm loving about most of the only Star Wars television thing I have not enjoyed so far, because I've only seen a half episode of it because I don't care about the character. He's useless, is Boba Fett. He's just I don't know. I've never liked him.
Well, I felt a little bit like after seeing The Mandalorian and loving The Mandalorian that,
Yep.
I already had a little bit of a been there, done that, and been there and done better.
Yeah.
And so I felt like Boba Fett just paled in comparison. It wasn't a bad series, but I just felt like, Mandalorian is better, more interesting version of that story, I think. The one that I didn't love was Obi-Wan, to tell you the truth. I was so disappointed with that one, and that was the one I thought I would love the most because it had Darth Vader and so much of the original sort of trilogy in it.
I love that Ewan and Hayden came back. Mm-hmm. I love the Darth Vader battles. I thought that was great. But the best thing about that show is, even though everyone is going to say, oh, it should have been Luke. I see all these from websites that just want clickbait articles to just explain everything to everybody that most of us that aren't in the Star Wars universe or know about. We already know half the stuff, but like, everybody's like, oh, it should have been Luke and Obi-Wan, not Leia. I like that it was Leia, because that little girl that played her, it's like a mini Carrie Fisher. Like, it was so, that's the part of Obi-Wan that I like, is her and him, and I thought that was cool. I know that futzes with the actual timeline and things and the New Hope and all that, but I don't care. I thought it was fun with the two of them. The rest of the series, yeah, I kind of agree. It wasn't great, but I don't know. And who knows what they're going to do next. I mean, I know currently, as of this recording that we're doing here, they just released Tales of the Jedi, which I have not watched yet, but I know that Ahsoka's in that, and Ahsoka is awesome. I'll watch anything with Ahsoka.
I have not seen that yet.
Yeah, it just came out on Disney+.
Yeah.
All right. Did you and your friends ever pretend with your toys that you had? By this, I mean, did you say, I'm going to be this toy and you can be that toy? Like, Michael can be the Coke bottle top and the other friend can be the piece of glass or whatever.
I don't remember us ever doing that. And I don't know. I don't know if this answers the question or goes out in a terrifying different sort of detour, but I remember pretending to be Wonder Woman. I remember during my Wonder Woman phase that I thought if I just kept spinning, that I would suddenly be wearing those bracelets and have that whip and all of that. But I was like kind of hardcore into it. Like, I don't even know if people saw me spinning and being like, "What the fuck is this crazy kid doing?" But there was like a couple months there where I was like very much into wanting to be her so much that I just kind of spun around day and night until I made myself sick.
Oh, jeez. Wow. That was a pretty good show for the time, though. I mean, that show had some good stuff in it.
Yeah, it was amazing, and can we just talk about how incredible Linda Carter still looks?
Oh, absolutely. Even even nowadays in 2022, but it shocked me. What shocked me was back in 2005, she showed up as the principal in Sky High, in the Sky High movie. I was like, what's Wonder Woman doing here? And I was like, oh, that's awesome. Yeah, it's amazing. Like, as sad as it is, I wish Yvonne Craig was still here. I loved, as soon as Batgirl came on the scene, Batman and Robin, forget them. Like, just show me. And there's a there's an episode where the Penguin wants to marry Barbara Gordon, and he ends up kidnapping her, and she ends up it ended up being like this whole Barbara, Batgirl, Alfred adventure. I'm like, this is great. They should have done more of this. Not necessarily kidnapping Barbara every week to marry her off to some villain, but like the Barbara and Alfred hour, I love that. That's awesome. Forget Adam West, forget Burt Ward, and I don't mean that, negatively, but like, just more of that. That was fun. What features define a good toy to you? How true does the item feel in comparison to, say, the source material likeness?
As it pertains to the Smurfs, I will tell you that I'm sort of precious about the kind of Smurf merchandise I collect, and it all has to be from the 80s, because the new Smurf merchandise, that a lot of it was spawned off of the movies, the new animated movies, they're just so CGI heavy to me that they lose all their magic. And there's just something, so for now, to me, it has to have sort of a vintage retro quality and literally be vintage. Like, I don't collect any Smurf merchandise that was produced, with some exceptions here and there, after the 80s. And particularly, I don't collect any of like the current movie merchandise, because I don't recognize those Smurfs. Those don't look like Smurfs to me. They look like a computer program or a video game. So that's sort of my litmus test these days in terms of when we're talking specifically about Smurfs. I have a very sort of like, and not everybody knows that. So there are often people who are like, they'll be in a store and they'll see, a Smurf something in Target or something, and they'll send me a photo, and I'll be like, no, this isn't doing anything for me. Stop what you're doing. You're ruining it for me.
Yeah. Stop wasting your phone space with pictures that I don't want. Yeah, it's so funny that it's one of those things where smart, like, I haven't even seen the new animated movies. I didn't even see did they ever release the live action one, or the supposed live action one?
Well, the first one was a mix of live action and animated with Neil Patrick Harris.
Yeah.
And then it went all animated after that.
Yeah. I think I've seen maybe the trailer for that first film, and I've seen the trailer for the second film, but I saw
the first film, but then that was where it ended.
Yeah. Yeah. For me, when it comes to Smurfs, I want flat 2D 80s Smurfs. I don't want CGI Smurfs. I don't want realistic blue people. That's what Avatar's for. Whoa.
Right. Yeah. And also because so much of my toy love is from my childhood, that's where a lot of it remains. I in many ways, when it comes to my love of toys, I'm very much stuck in the 80s still. There are very few sort of more modern toys that I get excited about.
Yeah. I'm not going to spoil it, but there is a scene in the film where we see your bedroom.
That's in the trailer. So you can talk about that. Yep.
So we see your apartment, we see your bedroom, and when I was watching the movie, I was like, oh, that's a giant Papa Smurf. Like, out of everything that was in there, I'm like, holy crap, that's a giant Papa Smurf. Was that all stuff from your collection?
Yeah, so first let's just be clear. The bedroom in the movie is for adult Michael. It's not a flashback.
Right.
That is an adult. That is a room filled with toys of an adult man who is me.
Right.
So I need to own that. Mm-hmm. That entire collection that you see in the movie all of it was mine, including the giant size Papa Smurf.
That is so awesome.
It's incredible, and it's one of my favorite pieces of my collection, and it's a gift from my late husband, who the story is about. the book and the movie. He found that for me in Germany, and I remember when that box arrived, and I did not know what was inside, but it was humongous, and there were two of them because I have a Papa Smurf in that. It's like a 5 foot size statue, and then there's a regular sort of quote unquote normal Smurf, it's called, version of it. So I have both of those.
Very cool, very cool. Yeah, there's no. Look, I'm 42. I have just under 250 Funko Pops in my current toy collection, and they're all various characters. There's no shame in saying that your apartment or your living space is filled up with toys or collect. Like I do not like. Look, we're all fans of toys here at this show and on this network. So the adult Michael, the kid Michael, it doesn't matter. But in the context of the movie, yeah, that's what I was saying, was that, yes, as an adult, going into that, I was like, that's interesting. And then I was like, oh, that is the way that we had his not entire collection, but a portion of his collection in the film. And that was so cool.
And I mean, and that's all that happened, that was what my bedroom in Bloomfield, New Jersey looked like, in my living room. It was an explosion of Smurfs, and I'm not ashamed of it. I think, looking back, I developed a better ability to curate and display than I did back then, and a lot of that is because of my late husband Kit, who was a designer and just had impeccable taste. He basically showed me that here, you can collect these things, but you don't have to make it look like your home is a flea market.
Yeah.
You can make it look like it's a museum. You can make it look like it's just the coolest shop in the world. You don't have to make it look like it's the Meadowlands flea market on a Saturday in New Jersey. Yeah,
exactly. And I was saying this to your publicist Clay off air. I said, it's not a joke, but the way my brain works is I make all kinds of connections. And in the movie, in the beginning of the movie, your character, or Jim Parsons playing you, says he's talking about Knight Rider, and up until the point where he said, it was 90 episodes, it wasn't that great of a show. Up until then, I was with you, because I am a huge Knight Rider fan, and before we started the recording, I just realized Michael and Kit. So technically you had your Knight Rider.
Yeah.
And I met the man when I was 6 years old. I have a picture of me and the Hoff in Boston, and I sat in the car, and I was just waiting. And sadly, William Daniels was not in the trunk.
So Knight Rider was like a huge part of your childhood?
Knight Rider has been everything in my...
As Michael would say, thanks, pal.
Knight Rider, Transformers, He-Man and the Masters of the Universe, to slightly a lesser extent, G.I. Joe, Mask, Gem and the Holograms. I defend Gem and the Holograms as an action cartoon for every gender, no matter who you are. It's not just a girl's cartoon. The first 5-parter, the Misfits are trying to kill him. They're trying to blow up their car. They're trying to sabotage him. That's not just, what's Barbie's Adventure of the Week today?
I have to admit, I don't know what you're talking about. What is this?
Gem and the Holograms?
I don't know Gem and the Holograms.
Really?
How do I not know that? What year was that?
1985.
Total blind spot for me. I was deep into my Smurf obsession there, so I did not see anything else.
Yes, 1980. I believe it was 85 to 87, but without actually looking, I could not tell you.
Gem and the Holograms.
Gem and the Holograms, yeah, October 6th, 1985 to May 2nd, 1988.
Yeah, that was pretty much. I was hunkered down in my Smurf cave.
It had 65 episodes, ran 3 seasons. So
Okay.
just enough for syndication.
All right.
But basically, just for you, American animated musical television series that ran from 85 to 88. This series is about record company owner Jerrica Benton, her singer alter ego Gem, and the adventures of Gem and her band, the Holograms. And they have rivals called the Misfits, and it's just a fun thing. I'm fairly certain you can get the complete series DVD set on Amazon or something like that. But yes, Gem and the I think you would really enjoy it.
Is it sort of like Josie and the Pussycats?
Sort of, but not really. It's a little bit more action than that.
Okay.
Yeah, the Truly Outrageous Complete Series on DVD. I'm looking at it right now, $34.68 on Amazon. I will send you the link after the show. All right, so let's see. What features define a good toy? No, I already asked you that. Wake up, you idiot. All right, let's see. Let me get an edit point here. 36, 19, 20, edit. What does toy packaging have to draw you in? So you're in the toy store and you're in whatever aisle you want to be in and you see this toy, this toy, this toy, and that toy. What does the packaging have for you to go towards one of those toys more than the others?
I think it needs to be sparse. I think there needs to be a lot of dead space, lack of clutter, clean lines, just something artful about it.
Very cool, very cool. Do you open your toys or do you leave them packaged? If you keep toys packaged, do you have any specific criteria for that?
It depends. I think, if it's a toy that is worth money, and worth more money if it remains packaged, I'll leave it packaged. If it's something that I don't really think is ever going to appreciate, and I would rather display the actual toy than the box,
Right.
then I'll take it out. But there are a lot of pieces of my Smurf collection that are mint in package. And one of them is actually one of the more modern Smurf toys that I have is actually a piece of art that was made that are basically Smurfs as Star Wars action figures.
Oh, wow.
Yes, and they're extremely limited. They're worth a fortune. And from some stroke of luck, I managed to get my hands on these right out of the gate. They were Comic-Con, limited edition toys. And I remember getting my hands on a bunch of them, and now they're going for thousands of dollars on eBay. But those I will never open. Those I will never touch. And what's so great about that modern Smurf toy, and again, it's more art than toy, and that's sort of how the artist gets around producing them, is by calling it art and not a toy, is the Smurf figurines look like the Smurf figurines from the 80s. They're just it's the Princess Leia version of Smurfette. It's the, Papa version of Obi-Wan. And they're just exquisite and they're so well done. But anyway, those are mint on card. I think is that the correct sort of lingo? That I have those tucked away, and I will never open those. As much as I would like to open them and to have the actual figurines displayed, I can't.
Yeah, absolutely. There's just certain things that should just be, if the packaging it looks good enough, it looks I've got the second set coming from a friend of mine, but I have these things they're from Jada Toys. They are Transformers Nano Metal Figs. They are all die-cast, and they are like little 3-inch, 4-inch figurines of Transformers characters, but they're all die-cast. And they're all in this giant 18-pack box. And this box, with the figures inside, looks so good, I have been struggling to figure out if I'm going to open them, because I'm worried about the fact that if I open them, I may never get them back in the box. Right. And I may never have the box look as good as it looks without opening them. So
that's not an issue of you wanting to protect the value as much as it is you think the actual toy is enhanced by the packaging.
Yes. I don't think there's that set was like, I want to say somewhere between $15 to $35. I forget what I paid for. It wasn't that. But for 18 nano metal, for 18 die-cast toys that are 2-3 inches, they're little figurines. They're not Papa Smurf size. Right. You know what I mean? They're little tiny things. And yes, it is a thing of, I think they look great in the package, but I also want to experience them without just, not that I'm going to sit here and rip open the package and destroy it, but just the way, I'll send you a picture after, but just the way that they are displayed in the package, my worry is being able to get them back in the package afterwards. So that's a whole other.
Why were we so dumb as kids when we collected? Like, why didn't it dawn on anybody, or why didn't it dawn on more people that maybe leave it in the packaging, maybe leave the maybe get 2 Star Wars action figures of each one, play with one, and keep one mint in package? Was it just because toy collecting was just not as ubiquitous as it was back then?
Well, okay, so you were born in 72, I was born in 80, so we're 8 years apart. And yeah, the thing of it is we were kids. Our parents wanted us to have something to do, so we wouldn't bother them at times. And that's what toys, besides for us, toys are everything. Toys are the fictional world of the Smurfs or the Snorks or the Transformers or whatever it is. That was our world. As kids, we weren't taught collecting. We weren't, some people might have been, because I had a stepfather or a step something at some point or another. He had or maybe it was a foster dad, I don't remember. He had a whole classic Star Trek action figure collection that he wouldn't let any of us touch. Half the collection was in package and the other half was open and displayed. And he always told us, don't touch the packaged ones. Don't touch any of them, but don't touch, you're going to ruin. That was the first time I ever heard about ruining the value, was with that Star Trek collection. But as kids throughout the 80s, 70s, 80s, and 90s, we just wanted to play with the stuff. And then we eventually...
I know. And then so there's part of me that, is filled with regret for not taking better care of these toys. But then the other part of me remembers what that was like, that sort of childlike innocence where it was never about the money or the value, the appreciation. It was just about the sheer joy of playing with those toys. Yep. And I feel like that doesn't maybe exist as much as it did back then.
So we're all older now.
You pointed out I'm older than you. You keep bringing this up.
Not trying to.
You keep bringing up.
You look a heck of a lot younger than I do, so
But whatever.
No, you do. You look a heck. I'll show you a picture. You look a hell of a lot younger than I do.
You're still 8 years younger than me, as everyone listening to this knows.
No. But it's one of those things where we've gotten to the point now where that has now been a thing with toy collecting over the years. Has become a thing, and it has been a major thing, I would say, since about 99, 2000. It got really a big bang in 2005, 2006, especially for me. At that time, I had a job with some really good benefits and really good pay and everything else, and I was like, ooh, I want to get my childhood back. I think between Generation 1, 1984 Optimus Prime, 85 Blaster, like 4 different Transformers toys. I spent over $1,000 on them at the time, at different times throughout those few years. And it's just one of those things where we are now in the toy collecting community. As toy collectors, we do look at like, I don't collect for value. I never have and I never will. But with Funko Pops, most of the time, unless I'm taking photos of them, they stay in their boxes because it's easy to, and it's fun to view them in their boxes because it's kind of like a TV screen a little bit. Right now, there are only 2 that I have out of box, and one of them, I know there are 3 actually. I have now Funko Pops generally are 3.5 to 4 inches tall, so they're your standard pop vinyl figure thing, but they make 10-inch ones, and I have Soundwave and Unicron out of package. The only other one I have out of package is because his box is kind of destroyed a little bit in my move across the country from Washington to Indiana this year, is the Soup Nazi from Seinfeld. So, but I mean, the thing is we're all in this. The way I look at the toy collecting community is we all have different opinions. We all have different things we like or don't like, and that's fine. That makes us all unique. But we are all in this together. If we aren't in it together, for whatever reason it is, like, then we aren't in it at all, in my opinion. It's just one of those things. All right, plain and simple. The toy collecting community is the 3 Musketeers, all for one and one for all. So I think I know what the answer to question 12 is going to be, but if as a kid or an adult you were only allowed to choose one toy franchise to collect from, which one would you choose and why?
I mean, Smurfs, obvious one. I can't, I can't even entertain any other possibilities.
Right. Yeah, absolutely. As an adult, do you prefer vintage toys or modern toys?
Yeah, so vintage all the way. Not to say that I can't be drawn or that I haven't purchased more modern toys, but to me, it's all about the throwback, the nostalgia.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, somebody said to me recently that question, like, we don't, like, as adults, we don't really play with the toys. Like, we're not sitting here like Dark Helmet from Spaceballs and just like, pew, pew, pew. But what is one toy you can always play with? By this, what is the one toy out of your entire collection that just gives you the most ultimate joy of all time?
Oh, like present day.
Yeah, or is it? Yeah, I mean, at any point, it doesn't matter.
I don't really play with any of my toys.
Right.
What I'll say is, talking about packaging. So the Super Smurfs. I don't know if you remember, but so there were really there were many types of Smurf collectibles, but the 2 big ones were the Smurf figurines and then the Super Smurfs. And the Super Smurfs were basically the Smurf figurine comes with an accessory, like a fireman. So it's a Smurf fireman figurine, but you actually get like the hose, the whatever it's called, the water hose,
Yeah.
or whatever. Or a jailed Smurf, and he's actually in like a little prison. But the boxes that those Super Smurfs came in, I remember being obsessed with them as a kid, and to this day still obsessed with them. And that's the one thing that I don't play with them, but I like to display them. I like to just stack all of those boxes, those little Super Smurf boxes up, and for whatever reason, it just conjures up the feeling and imagery of the 80s retail experience of walking into a store as a kid and just seeing these hundreds of mint in package Super Smurf boxes behind the counter and thinking I want them all. And to this day, whenever it's the part of sort of the Smurf display that I'm most excited about putting together is like, how am I going to display these Super Smurf boxes?
Right. Interesting. Yeah, I don't remember those. I've been Googling them and I'm like, oh, that's what they were. Yeah, they're very cool looking. Those boxes are awesome.
Yeah.
Even though there are always toy lines that people never purchase, are there any that you specifically and purposefully avoid? This can be a toy line, specific character, etc. So you're in the store and you see the Snorks, the Smurfs, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, the Transformers, G.I. Joe, Star Wars, Star Trek, whatever. Like, what's the one that you're not going to go towards?
You're not going to like this answer, but Transformers.
Transformers.
Yeah. Never had any interest. They don't do anything for me. They never did do anything for me. I have no interest.
You know, that's okay.
Yep. It is okay. Thank you. Yeah.
It's not like
thanks for not coming at me. I felt
no.
I was in a little bit of an unsafe space saying
no. Look.
I'm fucking with you. It's all
no. Just because we are Transformers, like Transformers, literally helped us start the network. That's what started it. But
we have shitting all over.
No. Hey, look, if it doesn't do anything for you, it doesn't do anything for you. That's fine. I mean, it's no big deal. You know.
I think I had one. I think I had a couple of them. It didn't do anything for me.
I mean, you know, see the thing with Transformers is it's all, at least Generation 1, it's all vehicles, Beast Wars is animals, and then there's all this other stuff throughout the last almost 40 years. But, you know, if it didn't do anything for you, it didn't do anything for you. It's fine. It's not
like the movies.
The movies? Oh,
sore subject?
No, it's not. Those movies, man, like, I love that they made the brand a bunch of money. The movies themselves, the first movie was okay-ish. The second movie was horrible. The third was okay, and then 4 and 5. Like, so I'll say this because I've said this before. I stopped going to theaters. The last time I was at a theater, my former wife and I were at the 30th anniversary of the original animated 86 film, when they started doing like special like events for that. That's the last time I was at a movie. When it comes to my media, I'm one of those control freaks, like, give me the remote, let me do my thing kind of person. And I prefer to sit at home in my own space. If I want to pause the thing, I can pause it. If I want to stop it, if I want to go do something else, or if I want to sit here and watch it for 2.5 hours or whatever it is, I have the control. Whereas going to a theater, as great as it is to see the stuff on the big screen, you have no control. And especially if you get a drink, then halfway through you're going to have to go to the bathroom and you're going to miss something. So yeah, no, I don't. But the funny thing is with that fifth, the last night, the last film and the whatever. But like, I watched it here at home and I'm like, I got maybe 15.5 minutes into that. I haven't even finished watching the fifth live action film. I won't. I mean, I will. We're eventually going to cover all of them because we're going to do the Winter of Bayhem at some point. But yeah, no, those movies, man. There's so many other good, like, if you want to find I'm not saying you, Michael Ausiello, are going to find your entry point into Transformers. I'm saying, if you wanted to, there are so many other better entry points than the Michael Bay films.
Please stop trying to force your Transformer obsession on me. I said I don't want them. I don't like them.
Absolutely. I'm not forcing anything on you at all. I'm just saying, if you were interested, I'm not saying you are, and you've told me you're not, and that's fine, and we're going to move on. What
Again,
is,
totally kidding.
nope, I already did that, is 16. Are there any toys in the past or currently that you wish you had not bought them? Are there any toys that you may have sold that you regret letting them go?
So toys that I didn't buy and regret not buying, and them toys I bought that I wish I hadn't.
So toys that you wish you had not, like you bought something, you got it home, and you're like, why did I buy this? Or toys that you might have sold that you regret selling.
I regret selling a lot of the Muppets stuff that I had as a kid. I regret selling the original Miss Piggy stuffed animal that I referenced earlier. I think I was of the mind where I'm going to just hang on to the Smurfs and get rid of everything else. And I regret that. And I definitely regret getting rid of a lot of the Star Wars stuff, even though it wasn't mint in package. It would be nice to still have hung on to some of those action figures or the large size action figures. That would have been cool to still have. I think some toys, and this is more recent, that I regret the times where I have purchased a more modern piece of Smurf merchandise because I thought that it passed the litmus test. Like I thought it had enough nostalgia in it, but then I brought it home and I'm like, no, this is a modern Smurf toy. I recently did sort of a decluttering or a downsizing of the collection when I was moving it across country for the movie, and I made some cuts, and almost all of the cuts that I made were things that I had gotten in modern times that I thought maybe looked cool, but at the end of the day, ultimately didn't have the same sort of nostalgic pull as the primary collection.
Yeah. I can see that where, like you said earlier, you're at the time, it's several times you've curated the thing. And so for me, other the people listening probably know this already. I've done 160 something episodes of this show in the last X number of years, but just for you, when I was talking earlier about buying the Optimus Prime and the Soundwave and the Blaster and whatever, I had a toy collection from 2005 to 2011. In 2011, financial things came up. I had to sell the stuff. I was perfectly fine without that collection because I had to take care of the stuff, the financial stuff and everything else. I still appreciated the toys. I still ran the podcast up until I think 2014, and then I stopped it until it came back last year with this very format that we're doing right now. My buddy Josh had a couple ideas of doing a toy podcast, and I said to him, dude, I already have a built-in audience. I can bring the show back, and we brought it back, and it's still going. We do Toy Talk episodes. We do this thing called Display Case where myself, Josh, and somebody else, or whomever it is, me and two other people, it doesn't matter if it's Josh or somebody else, we will each talk about, like, for you, Michael, like if I said, oh, I found the Funko Pop Smurfette toy, and you have your own Smurfette figurine, and then somebody else has something else, we each sit here and essentially do a audio version of a YouTube video review of the toy, like just talking about what we like about it, what is so cool about it, etc., etc., etc. It's just one of those things where it doesn't matter like who you can like whatever you want to like and whatever. We all have various things and things like that, but it's just I completely lost my train of thought. Damn it. God, I hate when that happens.
It's because you're 42.
Ha! Yeah. I know. I'm not the answer to everything.
Imagine how it is for me being 8 years older.
Oh, stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Stop it. Yeah, no. I've realized as I'm on my way out of 42 and into 43 next year, I wasn't the answer to everything. Not that I ever thought I was in the beginning, but yeah. All right. Question 17. How large or small is your toy collection? Do your toys take up the whole house, or are they relegated to one room, shelf, or something like that?
So, I mean, it changes, it evolves. I will say that prior to the production of the movie, my Smurf collection was housed in my garage in Los Angeles. I have a little place in LA, and I transformed the garage into a retail experience, basically a vintage Smurf toy store
Right.
of my dreams. And there are photos of these online if you want to Google it. But it was always a dream of mine to have a Smurf room, but not a traditional room, more of a museum / store. And that dream became a reality a couple years ago. And so the majority of the collection, and I would say when I say majority of the majority of the collection was still in storage. There was a very curated selection of the Smurf collection this garage space, but it was definitely confined to one area. And then, the rest of my home and the rest of my apartment here in New York, there are little Smurf touches here and there, but gone are the days where my living space is just, sort of overrun with Smurf collectibles.
Right.
And again, a lot of that is I have learned how to display the collection in a way that is more artful.
Absolutely. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. If you do, how do you keep track of your collection?
Well, I mean, it's such a huge collection that there are points where I'm like, start to inventory, and then I just get so overwhelmed, and it's just too much. So really, the way I keep track of it now is all of the display bins for the collection are see-through. So it's much easier for me when I'm carting the collection around, particularly from coast to coast, for me just to visually see, oh, right, that's the container that has the Super Smurfs. This is the container that has the regular Smurfs. This is the container that has the Christmas Smurfs. So that's sort of real where I'm able to sort of keep a mental sort of checklist of everything versus an actual physical, tangible checklist.
It's so funny you say that about having certain ones at certain, like your New York apartment or your place in LA or wherever. It reminds me of what I did when I was a kid. My parents got divorced when I was 2 years old in 1982. By 1986-87, when I was 6 or 7 years old, I would keep several bad guys at my mom's house, but it was pretty much overrun with the good guys. I would keep maybe one good guy and then all of the bad guys at my dad's house in Rhode Island.
Oh my God.
Yeah, it was
Not too hard to unpack what's going on there.
Well, and it was funny because I had a whole He-Man and the Masters of the Universe collection, and Castle Grayskull was at Mom's house, Snake Mountain was at Dad's house, and yes, I used the microphone all the time.
Oh my God.
Oh, the 80s. I miss the 80s.
Same. Where's that time machine that they promised us?
I know, right? Come on, Doc Brown and
where would you go? I'm sorry. I know I'm not. You're asking the questions. Where, if you could have big access to a time machine, what year would you go to and where? And like keeping it sort of in the toy world.
Well, that's easy. 1986.
1986, and where?
Boston, Massachusetts, just south of Boston, Massachusetts, Kingston, Plymouth, Plimpton area. That's where I grew up. And as of, December of this year, holy shit. As of December of this year, it will have been a decade since I have been back in Massachusetts. So in December of 2012, my mom wasn't doing so well health-wise. She was staying with someone where the apartment that she had was upstairs, and it's New England, folks. It's Boston. It's New England. It's Massachusetts. These are like, Cape Cod homes on the edge of Hull, Massachusetts, right on the beach. And they have these old rickety stairs. She fell down the stairs one too many times. And I said, look, send me the money or buy me the plane ticket. I will get up there. I will bring you to Kentucky, and you just need to come back down here. And that was in December of 2012. She came back down here. We made a go of it as far as living together and things like that and everything else. By 2013 and 2014, she started getting sick. And then in 2015, she passed. But yeah, But yes, if I had a time machine right now, I would go back to Massachusetts, 1986, because 86 was the year for me, because there were so many things in 1986. You had, like I mentioned before, you were in like the second or third season of Gem. I think it was probably the second season of Gem. You had Transformers was just ending, plus the movie just came out. You had Alf starting with Knight Rider ending. So for me, and it's one of those things where I've said this in every podcast that I've done recently, the 80s to me is a virtual timeline of things starting, doing what they did, stopping, and then there's something that comes next. So if you look at, let's say, 1983 to 1987, 83, you had He-Man. 84, you had Transformers and Voltron. 85, you had G.I. Joe and Mask and Gem and all that, and Thundercats, and Silverhawks was in 86. By 87, you had Turtles, and Turtles ran through till the 90s. And so it's this moving transition of time. But yeah, if I could go back in time right now, I would immediately go back to 1986.
Is there a specific toy store that you would go to?
Child World. It was a local Massachusetts-based store that eventually Toys R Us and KB put out of business, but that was the place that I absolutely loved going to, because it was kind of like this, if I remember right. I've looked at several pictures of what the buildings were, that was the coolest thing about Child World. Like, yes, Toys R Us has Jeffrey, and Jeffrey is awesome, and yes, we all want to be Toys R Us kids. Fine, whatever. Child World was a castle. The outside of the building looked like a castle, and I have always, ever since I was a kid, ever since I saw The Sword in the Stone, I was always about that Arthurian legend, castles, knights, magical swords that are supposed to do all this stuff, being the chosen one of being able to pull the sword out of the stone and all that and everything else. So the outside of the store looked like a castle. The inside of the store, I couldn't tell you. But
really?
I don't remember the inside of the store at all.
Wow.
I don't. I have no memory.
That's where all the toys were.
Yeah, well, yeah, I know. I understand that. But
that's how a store works.
Yes, I know. But I assume it was just like every other toy store.
So I'm sure pictures exist online of what that exterior looked like, and do you have a framed picture of it, like in your living room over your
No, I don't. No, I liked the store, but I wasn't I've seen pictures of it, but I have I haven't built my whole
a replica of it in your backyard.
Yeah, no.
You're not there. Okay, yeah.
Yeah, it was. So Child World Children's Palace Corporation Retail, founded in 1962. It went defunct in September of 92. So pretty much
30, for a couple years after.
Yeah, 30 years pretty much, and yeah, it was just one of those things. It was just But yeah, I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell you if it was like. I assume, obviously, just like every other toy store that we had back then, you had an aisle for Barbies and the girls' stuff and all that and everything else. You had the remote control car aisle. You had the action figure aisles. You had the sports stuff. You had the and of course in the '80s, video games were just starting to become a big thing. But man, Toys R Us just took over.
Mm-hmm.
And it just, like I said, Toys R Us put them out of business. It was like I had forgotten that it was, wasn't until '92 that they actually went out of business. But it's just one of those things where.
Yeah.
All right, let's see. So you've mentioned several times about curating and displaying your toys. How do you display your Smurfs collection?
Well, again, I display them in this sort of store environment. So, one of the things as a modern Smurf collector that I do is I buy multiples. I buy a lot of the same thing. Like recently, I mentioned to you that I love the Super Smurf boxes. Well, I saw on eBay about 6 months ago that someone who clearly worked in a store in the 80s and had all of this dead stock of Smurfs, but had like hundreds of the same Super Smurfs all in there. Like they would come like in 5 packages from the wholesaler. They'd come in like packages of 5.
Mm-hmm.
And I bought them all. Like I bought all of them. And the reason I bought all of them was because I have this idea of, wanting to recreate that retail experience of walking into the store and just seeing that display of all of these toys. But
Yeah.
there's something about, the repetition and the duplication of it, like that is a retail experience. You go in, you don't see one of the same toy. You see like 60 of the same toy, because they've got all this stock. Well, I want all that stock. I want to visually look at all that stock. I want to touch that stock. I want all of that. So that's really how the way I display the Smurf toys now, and the way I displayed it in the store was just a lot of the same thing. Like I had a plush section, and I had 30 of the same small blue plush toy all in one thing, because it just reminded me of what it looked like in a toy store back in the day, instead of like 60 different stuffed animals.
Yeah, and it reminds me of, and I don't know if you ever saw this, and I'm sorry to keep bringing up those giant robots, but what you're talking about reminds me of the Pawn Stars episode where this guy had like 6 different not different versions, but like 6 of the same version of like Triptychon or Fortress Maximus or whatever. And I like the idea. The way you just explained it just reminds me of Woody and Buzz going through the toy aisles.
Yes.
In the movie, and I like the idea, but there are so many different characters for me in the Funko world that I love that I could not just buy the same toy over and over and over again.
Right. Well, you don't have to buy the same toy, but you could pick 10 toys whose packaging you really love, and buy 10 of those 10 toys. Right. And then have a little area. I'm not telling you how to display your toys here.
No, I know.
I'm just saying you could have like a little section that sort of conjured up that visual image and that feeling of an old school like toy store. Anyway, that's what I'm always chasing that high.
Yeah.
That high of walking into my favorite store called Gift Expressions that sold Smurfs, or even walking into a Toys R Us during the Smurf heyday and seeing like just a whole wall of Smurf toys. That there's just something that's so magical and about that, and I want to recreate it.
Absolutely. And I think even though I'm probably not going to do this because it was hard enough for me to find this one, but actually a friend of mine sent it to me because I haven't been able to find it. But it's Funko Pop, Kate Bishop with Lucky the Pizza Dog. It's the Funko Blacklight series. So basically, you shine the blacklight or the UV or whatever, and she and the dog glow. Well, this pop box is not your normal white on gray with other artwork. It's all black. Like this toy right now, and I'll send you a picture afterwards. This I could see having a whole wall of, because that way I could just put a giant black light above it and we'd have all kinds of glowing Kate Bishops and Lucky the Pizza Dogs.
Yeah. Yes, you need to do this. You need to do this.
It's hard enough finding
if you take anything away from our conversation today, it's that you absolutely need to create that wall.
I will try, no promises. It's hard enough to find her. Like I said, I had to have a friend in Louisville, Kentucky. He just sent her to me, and I was like, "Oh, thank you so much. I've been looking for this." And some of the eBay people, oh god, it's not even resellers. It's just some of the people that are selling some of the fun. Oh man, it's a whole thing.
Do you go to toy fairs?
No, I don't. I don't really go to, and that's a question later, actually.
Okay, we can wait. We can wait until we get to it. Yeah.
All right. So everybody is safe, but something happens to the apartment or the house or the garage or whatever. If you could only keep one toy from your entire collection, what would it be and why?
That's tough. That's tough. I mean, I would probably be one of the sort of special rare figurines that my late husband got me for Christmas. He would always like, I had a list of like super rare Smurf figurines that I was always on the hunt for, and one of them is called the green surprise bag Smurf. That's like the name of it. And it's a Smurf holding this little like sort of European gift bag, and it was super rare, and I remember he got it for me for Christmas one year, and that's special for me because it has a lot of sentimental value. I suppose if that one was easily accessible and I didn't have to dig too deep to get it, right. That would be the one that I would grab.
All right, folks, we've gotten through 20 of the 42 questions. We're going to take a quick ad break, and we're going to come back right after this and get more of Michael's Toy Story and Life Story after this, only on ToyCast. We'll be right back.
Hello, geeks and geekettes! Looking for a podcast that covers a vast array of topics? Then check out Altered Geek Unleashed, where we discuss our thoughts on this week's geeky news, tech, gaming, television shows, movies, cartoons, comics, and more. So, get altered, get geeky with the Altered Geeks, every Friday on the Geekcast Radio Network.
Because the world needs another movie podcast.
The Geekcast Radio Network presents for your listening pleasure The Cinema Geek.
Hosted by Amanda, Kevin, Matt, and Dan.
Each week we dive headfirst in the landscape of movies as we discuss movie news, play movie games,
go in-depth on reviews,
and even have a top 10 countdown or two.
Also, don't miss our director retrospective series, where we review noted directors' movies film by film. Bottom line is, if you love movies and love podcasts, you need to experience The Cinema Geeks.
You can find us on iTunes, Blog Talk Radio, or GeekCastRadio.com.
Like science fiction? Of course you do, or you wouldn't be listening to the Geekcast Radio Network. Well, the Marku 42's Universe podcast is an award-winning sci-fi radio show that's been around for over 10 years. We cover everything from Doctor Who to the MCU to pop culture and everything in between. A new show drops on Tuesday mornings on the GCRN website and all of the major podcast platforms. So listen to the Marku 42's Universe podcast from the universe and beyond.
Hurry, Skeletor, hurry! I am hurrying, I'm hurrying!
The Powers of Grayskull series has covered every episode of all of the Masters of the Universe cartoons except for 2. Join Optimus Solo and TFG and Mike as they tell tales of Eternia, discover the myths of Etheria, become masters in space, evolve into the Masters of Grayskull, and finally reveal the revelation of Masters of the Universe. We'll also be finding out the origins of how guests got into or out of watching the Masters of the Universe cartoons, and so much more. You can find the podcast at geekcastradio.com and any podcatching client you choose to use. By the power and for the honor of Grayskull, we all have the power.
He-Man! Always He-Man!
I bet that mirror got vanity, too. Then we have to rescue them, Brainy.
Abso-smurfly not. Let someone else be the foolish hero.
We are back here on Toycast, on the Geekcast Radio Network, with Michael Ausiello talking about toys. So, on the flip side of the last question before the break, here's the Toy Box Challenge. You get one 18 by 18 by 18 box. The only toys you can keep have to fit in the box. What can you pack into it?
I packed the Star Wars Smurfs art figurines I referenced earlier, and then I would put all the super valuable Smurfs, like the ones with, there were only 100 of them that were made. The ones that have actual monetary value, and then the ones that have sentimental value.
Very cool, very cool. Are you a Funko fan?
No.
Okay. That's fine. I will say, though, they have 3, 6, 7. They have 7 Funko Pop Smurf figurines. And they've got Papa Smurf, they've got Astro Smurf, they've got Smurfette, they've got Brainy, they've got Gargamel with Azrael. And I believe most of these are probably all vaulted. Yeah, they all came out in like 2017. But
no, I've seen them, and they're aesthetically, they're nice. They're nice to look at. I can't go down the road of modern Smurf toy collecting. I can't. I mean, I'm so sort of off my rocker with the vintage stuff that right. I have to draw a line somewhere. And a lot of it is, that's where I want to draw the line. This is what I like, but also it's just sort of like self-preservation. I can't. I need to have boundaries.
No, absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome. Very cool. Very cool. What was the most money you ever spent on a toy?
I think there was a play set about a year ago that I got on eBay, a Smurf moon landing play set that was $400, a couple $100. That is up there. The large sized Smurfs, like the one you see in the movie, the Papa Smurf one, those were more, but those were a gift. I didn't buy those. Kit got me those.
Yeah.
I actually don't know what they cost, but I have to imagine they were over $500 each. But I think this Smurf landing one, which is a super rare mint in package, super Smurf. I think one of the most expensive ones.
Very cool, very cool. What, on the flip side of that, what was the cheapest toy you bought? What was the best deal you ever got for a figure?
Well, it wasn't a figure, but several years ago, I found on eBay that someone was selling a Smurf sticker retail display from the 80s, one that my favorite store, Gift Expressions, had. And it had not only the 6 Smurf full sticker rolls, mint in package, but it had the whole retail cardboard display. And basically it's like these rolls of stickers come out of like this mushroom house, and it's beautiful. And I remember seeing it on eBay, and I don't remember how much it was, but I remember it was a steal. And I, oh my God, I snapped that up immediately. And it's visually one of the coolest things that I had in my quote unquote Smurf store. And I would have paid a lot more money for that. I think it was just maybe a little over $100. And it's huge. It's big. It's considerable in size.
Very cool. Very cool. I mean, I know the answer to this question, but I'm going to ask it anyway. What modern and or vintage toy lines are you currently collecting?
None.
Yeah, it's just Smurfs for you.
Yeah, it's
and that's cool. That's awesome. That you like you were saying about, when I was mentioning the Funko Pop Smurfs, where you were talking about, having to have limits on yourself.
Yeah.
Like for me, I don't buy it. Like I don't have every like I mentioned. I think I mentioned this off air. I might have mentioned it on air. I know I've mentioned it on air before. Currently, I have about just under 250 Funko Pops. I know people that have way more than I do, but I am curating my collection to the characters that I absolutely love. And with you, with your toy collecting, you have curated to the one franchise that you absolutely love, and I think that's awesome.
Yeah,
you don't, and I'm going to say this, and I'm not trying to put words into your mouth, but you don't feel like you have no interest in any other. Like you may say, "Oh, that's cool," or "Oh, that looks great, that's fun, that's amazing," whatever. But it's just you have no real interest in having it yourself.
Right, and that's not to say that I won't buy modern toys like one-offs, but not as part of a collection. And usually, what'll happen is I'll see something that's cool, and usually it's a custom toy. Usually, it's an artist. There's some really incredibly talented action figure artists. That one of them is goes by the handle Death by Toys on Instagram. Who his name is Dan Polydoris, and he makes basically these card back action figures modeled after sort of the 80s Kenner Star Wars figurines, but the toys themselves are really funny and really dark and kind of dirty, and I'm obsessed with his stuff. He's so funny and so smart, and I'm regularly spending way too much money on these one-off action figure pieces of art that he makes, because they make excellent gifts around the holidays.
That's awesome. That's great.
Like, just to give you an example, like he made an Abraham Lincoln present day action figure with a card back and everything, and it's basically just a skeleton.
Oh,
I know, and it's like,
what? Does the skeleton Abe at least have the top hat?
It does not have the top hat.
Oh, it would make it so much. Oh God,
but, they're so. I mean, they're so wrong. They're right. But anyway, you should check that out. Death by Toys. He makes some incredible things. He made a Smurf cardback figurine. He took an old vintage Smurf figurine that had an axe, or like some kind of tool, and he put blood over it, and he put blood on the axe, and he made it a shining themed Smurf.
Wow.
And his stuff goes so quick. I saw that pop up in my feed, and it was a one of a kind. I bought that immediately. So that kind of stuff I'll buy, like sort of those kind of really super unique pieces of art. Toys.
Here's Brainy.
Yeah,
I know it wouldn't be Brainy that had to, but that's all I can think of. That's awesome.
Yeah,
that is so cool. All right, so you brought it up a little bit earlier. Here it is now. Do you visit toy shows and conventions? When you visit toy shows or conventions, do you have a typical methodology? Do you bring a certain amount of money for what you're searching for, etc.? For me, I don't do crowds. I hate crowds, so I don't do conventions. The last convention I was at was BotCon 2016, and I was only there for the Stan Bush concert, which wasn't even, it was separate from where BotCon was actually happening. So, but what about you?
I don't do them anymore. I did do them in the 90s, and in the early 2000s, before eBay exploded on the scene, and when you could actually go to a toy show and find things. I think the advent of eBay really cut into the toy show market. And I think a lot of the toy shows now, it's a lot of modern toys, because all the vintage stuff will just be put on eBay. And so like back in the 90s, I remember there was an annual toy convention in Atlantic City called Atlantique City. I don't even know if it still goes on now, but I remember going there and just finding so many cool vintage Smurf pieces that I think I would never find at a toy show now, because it would be on eBay. People wouldn't be selling these at those kind of toy shows. And then I'd go to sort of one-off, sort of more smaller local toy shows as well. And I did at one point, Kit and I went to Belgium, which is where the Smurfs were born. Because every year there is a Smurf toy fair there. And I've always wanted to go, and this is, obviously years ago, but we went to Belgium for this Smurf. It was basically a toy show with just like Smurf merchandise. It was incredible. And sort of to answer your question, like with Atlantic City, what I would do is my process would be I'd do a loop, one quick loop, and I would be looking for that sort of the Smurf blue, because it really sticks out. So I would just pass booth after booth looking for, that Smurf blue, and to see, who had Smurf merchandise. And I'd do sort of a quick pass, clock the booths that I needed to go back to, and then I would do another pass going slowly through the booths that I have identified.
Very cool, very cool. What do you think it is about our generation that caused our childhood toys to mean so much more to us than, say, for instance, our parents' generation?
I don't know. I mean, I would only, I think all I can speak to is like why I think toys were more special then than they are now is just, I think the arrival of video games. We had fewer options when we were kids.
Oh yeah.
There was much less we could do. It's like playing with our toys was one of those things that we could do. We did not have the internet. We did not have, at a certain part of my childhood, we couldn't watch movies at home, until VCR came out. So I think they made the toys more precious and special.
Yeah, absolutely. What is your motivation for purchasing toys? To display, play, fiddle? Describe your collecting style. Are you a completionist, storyteller, cherry picker, or otherwise?
I find as much new old stock that I can find. That is the collector that I am now. There aren't really specific pieces I'm after. I'm looking for, the person who used to run a gift store in the 80s and put all of the dead stock in storage and is now taking it out of storage and is like, I'm going to put this on eBay and sell it. That's what I'm hunting for.
Very cool. Very cool. Have you ever purchased a toy for a child with the ulterior motive of playing with it yourself?
No.
Okay. Have you ever purchased a vintage toy for a child because you thought it would be fun based on your own preferences?
Not for a child, but adults. Like now I'll find fun 80s toys. Like I recently went to a vintage store in New Jersey that I've been wanting to go for a while. And I was walking through there and I found some really cool sort of 80s toys that I didn't want for myself, but I admired them and I liked them so much that I was like, I'm going to get these and then give them as a gift. And I don't know to who, and I don't know when, but I know I need to share this magic that I found.
Right. Absolutely. Do you do any toy modifications or customs, painting, building dioramas?
No, I don't. No, I don't touch or taint any of the toys. What I will do is, like I'll mention, if there's an artist that takes a Smurf and does something really fun and artful with it, I will buy that from them. But I wouldn't do it myself.
Yeah. Do you think toy companies should specifically have adult collector toys, child toys, or find a way to mix both?
Yeah. I don't really have a strong feeling about that either way. To me, I feel like the toys that I buy are the toys that I had as a kid, so I wouldn't really be drawn to toys that are marketed or packaged for an adult. So. Yeah, I think if I'm more of like a one size fits all kind of thing. You make the toy and anyone who wants it can have it.
Yeah, very cool, very cool. Do you have a "my parents got rid of my toys" story?
I don't.
Okay.
I think I only have myself to blame.
Okay.
Like,
is there a story behind that?
Not really a story, but I don't actually remember where my Star Wars action figures went.
Okay.
I do remember we had some flea markets or garage sales, yard sales as a kid, where I'm sure I probably, because we all had our little section and we could all sell our own stuff. I'm sure I sold them there for whatever, but I don't really have. I don't have this like cool story where, someone came in the middle of the night and stole all my action figures.
Right. Okay. Do you feel you are coming to an end of your active collecting? If so, what has signified this phase for you? Was there ever a moment when you were ever done with toys altogether?
I do feel like I'm getting to a point where I have all of the Smurfs that I need, and then some. And part of that is, just space. I at the end of the day, I'm only going to really display so many Smurfs at any given time. So I do feel like I'm getting to the point where the days are over where I would go, I think, on an eBay frenzy, or even go to a toy show, or even go to Belgium to a Smurf fair and like buy all these Smurfs.
Right.
I think now it's just more of like seeing one-offs or something that I need, or seeing this sort of, again, this someone selling all this amazing sort of dead stock from the 80s.
Yeah, absolutely. So on the flip side of that, what is one toy you'd love to have scaled up and functional for real people, for the real world?
Scaled up and functional? What do you mean?
Like a giant statue, like a giant Stay Puft Marshmallow Man walking down New York City.
Oh, I don't know. I feel like if we keep staying in the Smurf thing, I feel like every Thanksgiving, when the Macy's Thanksgiving Parade happens and I see the giant Smurf, walking down 6th Avenue, I feel like that's sort of the marshmallow thing for me. I don't know if that's something I need or want or I'm craving.
How did Kit deal with your collection?
Not well.
Okay. Is that a source? Do you want me to not?
No, I mean, it's like, it's in the movie. I mean, it's in the trailer. You can see it. It was an issue. It was, Because as I mentioned, Kit had a very refined taste, and very refined visual palette. And walking into my apartment in Bloomfield, New Jersey, and seeing what was essentially a flea market display all over my apartment of Smurfs was challenging, and brought up some stuff for him, and I think looking back on it, it's funny. It's very funny because we just seeing our two very different tastes sort of crash into each other. But at the time, it was a little scary because it really did highlight our differences. And I think in the beginning, he had a very antagonistic relationship with my Smurfs that became, over our 14 years together, a very loving and affectionate relationship with them.
Well, that's good. That's always good. Yeah, it's always hard to introduce. This sounds, no matter who I'm talking to, this always sounds so stupid in my head, but it's always weird bringing somebody home knowing you're a toy collector, knowing you have a collection set up, whether it's museum style, whether it's flea market style, whatever. It's like, oh, by the way, I'm a toy collector. This is one of the reasons why now there weren't any pictures of my collection on the dating site, but when Karen and I met on OkCupid, I filled out over 150. I wanted my profile to be as specific and as honest and as open as I possibly could get it. I said I was a podcaster, I was a toy collector, I was this, I was that, and we connected and, everything else. But it really is difficult, showing people toy collections when we are supposed to be grown adults, in air quotes, kind of thing. But it's what we enjoy. It's what brings us joy. It's what, we look at and we see, and we have whatever memories that we have from having those toys.
And for Kid, the issue wasn't the toy collecting. It was how I displayed it. It was the lack of curation and the lack of artistry, I think, which was, offended him more than anything. It's like, I don't have any problems, Smurfs per se, but why are they just like laying all over your dresser? Like why you could do such a better job displaying this and have more fun with it. And he taught me how to do that. And I think I think that makes a big difference. I think it can make a toy collection seem scary, and the difference between it being scary and being sort of admirable. And I feel like I'm more at the stage now where I would proudly show off my Smurf collection because it doesn't look like a flea market anymore.
So before things started going south, he really did, you guys really kind of came together with the whole aspect of him helping you curate it to the point where, he was an artist, was he not?
Yes, he was a photographer, designer, all that.
So as a designer, he can look at that and say, okay, what if we try this? And you look at it and you say whatever you might have said, kind of thing. And it's one of those things where as a couple, as when you're in a relationship with someone, whatever the interests are, you help each other. You figure it out. You do whatever is,
you compromise.
Yeah.
And for me, it felt a little bit like an education. Because I didn't particularly love the way I was displaying my Smurfs before I met Kit. And I certainly wasn't, I knew I could do better. And I eventually did do better. And when we had our first apartment, you see the difference. Like it's depicted in the movie. When we move in together, the Smurf display in our apartment is very different from the Smurf display that Kit stumbled on in Bloomfield, New Jersey, or in the movie it's Jersey City. But you can see the impact he had on me when you see how the Smurfs are displayed in our first apartment.
And that's just one really, really awesome aspect to your whole story. Like, again, you say compromise. I think of it as more of, helping each other out to, like you said earlier, education kind of thing, and that's great. Toy collecting can have its struggles. What is one aspect you tend to struggle with the most?
Can you hear me?
Yep.
Okay, sorry. I mean, whether to buy it or not. I mean, it's the sort of the indecisiveness when I'm getting ready to click buy now on an item on eBay and just sort of like for 20 minutes, like, do I need this? Do I want this? Do I have to have this? Is it worth the money? It's just sort of those little decisions are becoming increasingly harder to make because as I sort of realize that I have more than I need.
Right. What is one positive and or one negative memory you have with buying toys?
Well, the positive memory, it all comes down to my experiences at this store called Gift Expressions that I had as a kid, where I bought the lion's share of my Smurfs when I was young. I have such fond memories of walking into that store in Union, New Jersey, and seeing the Smurfs in the yellow hexagonal rotating case, and just wanting them all, and knowing that I could really, on that given day, probably only buy one, and I had to make a decision. And just the excitement about that experience, those experiences in Gift Expressions are my happiest toy memories. My least favorite, I think, are about the ways in which I was made to feel ashamed of the toys that I liked and the toys that I wanted by my father. Whether it be Miss Piggy or, I wasn't allowed to have Barbie dolls, but, I had the Princess Leia large-scale action figure, and I treated her like a Barbie doll.
Right.
And I knew that it wasn't a popular thing to be doing, like playing with girl toys.
Right, yeah.
Quote unquote.
Yeah. If you could create any toy, whatever company, I don't know who owns Smurfs. I assume it's Mattel, but I don't know.
It's not. I think there are several different companies, but basically the family of the Peyo who created Smurfs still owns the brand.
Okay. So basically, if you could create any toy, what would you want to create? They give you the keys to the kingdom. What Smurf are you making?
I think it'd be fun to make like a Smurf, like a Michael Ausiello Smurf, like a Scoop Smurf, like a Smurf TV journalist. I don't know what that would look like necessarily, but I think like a TV Scoop Smurf would be cool to to have, because that does not exist. There's a journalist Smurf. There are versions of that journalism, but nothing as specific as TV journalist Smurf. Yeah. That's what I'd like.
Very cool, very cool. What is the one piece of advice you would give to the toy collecting fandom?
You don't have to display your entire collection.
What is advice you'd give to kids who enjoy toys?
Rip the packaging open and go to town. Play with that thing, whatever it is, and don't worry about appreciation, monetary value, or any of it.
Absolutely. That's what kids are for. Like, kids nowadays, whatever toys that their parents are getting them compared to what we had, like, kids today are like just like what we were, back in the 70s, 80s.
Although I do feel like there's some of their parents, like, and I know this with my own brother and with his nephew, is like, there are some where he pressures them to keep them mint in package. and my advice would be like, don't listen to your parents, rip it open.
Absolutely. All right, folks, we're going to take a quick ad break here and hear some ads and some other stuff. I'm probably going to put the audio from the spoiler alert trailer in here somewhere as well, just so you can get a feel for what the movie is like. The movie is out in select theaters December 2nd. We will be right back with Michael Ausiello after this.
Hey, you look abso-smurfly divine.
Thank you, Vanity.
Ah, yes, Vanity, you sly Smurf, you divine is the word.
Oh, I can think of a few more words, but I'm a lady.
Do you like retro cartoons? Then Saturday Morning Rewind is the podcast for you. Join them each month as they talk about classic cartoons and interview legendary voice actors like Jim Cummings.
I am the terror that flaps in the night.
Corey Burton.
Sometimes toys can be so flighty.
Rob Paulson.
Sure, Dwayne, but how are we going to find chaps our size?
Nancy Cartwright and many more.
Eat my shorts.
So grab a bowl of Lucky Charms.
They're magically delicious.
Put on your hammer pants. Go to SaturdayMorningRewind.com. And be prepared to feel like a kid again. Once again, that's SaturdayMorningRewind.com. Saturday Morning Rewind was voted Best Podcast Ever by its host, Tim Nidell. So it's gotta be good.
One of the primary themes of ToyCast is that we focus on times past. We are who we are today because of the nostalgic memories and experiences from our childhood. Obviously, we wouldn't be doing this podcast if it weren't for the toys that make us so addicted to nostalgia. Times Past Collectibles in Chicago, Illinois is your primary go-to collectibles store to reclaim the toys that drove those memories and experiences. Specializing in action figures from all of your favorite toy lines like Star Wars, G.I. Joe, He-Man, Transformers, Silverhawks, Ghostbusters, TMNT, Mask, and more. Get your dose of nostalgia with a shop run by collectors for collectors. Whether you are looking for loose G.I. Joe, Ice Cream Soldier, a packaged Leonardo, recent Star Wars Black Series figures, or an AFA-graded Boba Fett, Times Past Collectibles is bringing you back to your childhood. Visit the shop at 1450 North Ashland Ave in Chicago, just 2 blocks south of Ashland and North Ave. Call the shop at 847-830-1031 or email timespastcollectibles1982@gmail.com. You can also find them on Facebook. Just search Times Past Collectibles because, folks, it's past time that you get your collectibles.
So let's say you're looking for a podcast of your favorite 80s comic books, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Ninja Turtles, He-Man, etc. Where are you going to go to find us?
Welcome to Star Joe's Podcast. I'm your host, Ryan.
And I'm Chuck. That's right, everybody. We're the Star Joes. We host a podcast called Star Joe's Podcast, where we talk about your favorite comic books, your favorite toys of all the 80s properties.
Star Wars, G.I. Joe, Transformers, Mask, Thundercats, Voltron, you name it, we cover it. If it's in the 80s, we'll cover it at some point.
Yes, so what you want to do to find us, you can go to iTunes, you can go to www.starjoes.com.
And remember, the Force will be with you.
Because knowing us is half the battle.
Middle child, 2 brothers. We're actually very close, but they live in different states. Only child. Childhood obsessions. Christmas, magic. My name is Michael.
You're a great dancer. You're a terrible liar.
And that's Kid. I've always imagined that my life was like a typical romantic comedy. You were so confident. I mean, you just ripped off your clothes like you're a stripper at a bachelorette party. And I basically shower with clothes on. I'll just shut up now. Shall we go to your place tonight? Here's my door. Before we go in, just open the door. Okay. What is this, Michael? Oh, you don't want to... Oh my God, they're in here too. Oh, Papa. You turn my sixes to nine. I think you're very cool, and I'm worried that you're going to break my heart. No, Dad, this is my friend, Mike.
A friend?
Yes, Mom, just a friend.
What is going on here? Who is this guy?
He's my boyfriend.
Your boyfriend?
I think it's great, Kid. We may not look like it, but we are actually kind of hip. Oh, my God. We were going to go to Woodstock, you know. Slim? I am. Let's just take a moment to appreciate this beauty. Kid, what is going on? Are you all right? Calm down off the ledge, Mike. I'm seeing a doctor tomorrow.
I'm afraid the news isn't good.
I was always afraid Kit would break my heart, and eventually he did. He broke it open.
I've only got
You have to run the race in front of you because that's all there is.
Looking back, this is less of a rom-com and more of a love story. He can't sit for 4 hours. We promised bed.
All the beds are occupied.
Get my husband to bed! Well, that was Oscar-worthy. Work for Shirley MacLaine. I'm sorry I never told you how good your ass looks in your khaki pants. I was afraid if you understood how beautiful you are that you'd leave me.
Thank you for inviting us.
It was Kit's idea. I was vehemently opposed to it. And like all love stories, it never actually ends.
All right, we are back here on Toycast. Michael, this has been an awesome Smurf-tastic journey. Hey, I grew up on Smurfs. I like the Smurfs.
You have any Smurfs?
No, I do not have any Smurfs. Hence why I was looking up the Funko Pops for the Smurfs.
Why don't you have any Smurf Funko Pops?
I have not. I've only been collecting the Funko Pops since late 2016, early 2017, and I just haven't. Number one, I haven't sought them out, and number two, I haven't even seen them in stores at the time, and I think most of them at this point are probably, we've been talking about it the last hour or so. eBay, I'll go on eBay at some point and find some.
Well, don't do it for me. Do it for yourself.
Well, yes, no. I mean, because like I said, I remember watching the Smurfs. I remember that evil old man and his crazy cat trying to find the Smurf. Like, I never understood why Gargamel wanted to eat the Smurfs. That made no sense to me.
He had
Yes.
I feel like we're going to get a standalone Gargamel movie, sort of like Joker.
Oh my God, can you imagine?
Like a really dark live-action Gargamel movie that tells us why he is the way he is.
You need to go and you need to write that right now and then pitch it to Hollywood, dude. Seriously. Like, that needs to be your story. You need to come up with that.
I think you're right. I gotta get. When does this come out? November, end of November.
Yeah,
I got 3 weeks to write to write this script.
Yeah, absolutely. All right. So, where can the people find you online if they would like to interact with you, sir?
I'm on Instagram, and my handle is my full name, Michael Ausiello. I'm also on Facebook and Twitter, but I would say Instagram is where the best place to reach me or to read about what I'm up to and see stuff from the movie.
Absolutely. Speaking of the movie, today, as of this recording, October 28th, 2020. I almost said 2019. What the hell's wrong with me?
November 28th.
Yeah. Oh, Wait, no, it's not November. No, it's not November. No, it's not.
October. Oh, I thought you meant the day that comes out.
No. Today, as of this recording, October 28th, 2022, I saw your story. It's been 1 year since you guys started working on the film.
Yes.
So from you writing the book and making your memoir and getting the book out there to having it become a film, is that something that you wanted to do? How did making of the film come about?
It was not something I set out to do. It became something I wanted to do when I found out that there was interest. Mm-hmm. But it was sort of a funny story. Jim Parsons and I have known each other professionally for many years, mostly from me interviewing him at events. Big Bang Theory was a big show, a show that I loved. And, various award shows and whatnot. And he came into our offices several times and I interviewed him. But anyway, we had a really fun rapport. And when my book came out, I needed moderators at these book signings to do Q&As with me. And I reached out to Jim and I was like, hey, would you do this? And he said yes before even reading the book. Then he read the book. And then we were backstage at Barnes & Noble before going out to do this Q&A when him and his husband mentioned, his husband that actually mentioned that they were interested in optioning the book for it to become a movie. And that was the first moment where the idea of that really became a reality for me. And that sort of, set in motion the events that got us to where we are today.
Very cool, very cool. Before I run through the closing, is there anything you want to say about the movie, or is there anything I haven't asked you about the movie yet that you want to tell people?
The scene in Michael's apartment, when Kit comes in, there is a comforter. There are bed sheets. Michael's bed is fitted with vintage Smurf bed sheets. It's important for me to tell your listeners that while those vintage bed sheets were mine, that was a creative choice that differs from reality. I didn't actually have Smurf sheets on my bed. And it's important that everyone knows that, because even back then, I had a line that I wouldn't cross.
Yeah, we all have a line that we never are going to cross, right? Absolutely.
And awesome. Smurf bed sheets were my line. But for the purposes of the movie, dramatic license, whatever you want to call it, there was something very visually fun about seeing Smurf sheets on the bed. So.
Yeah. Absolutely. It's a movie that it has heart, it has everything you want in a movie, folks. Even though there are sad points in it, I will say that I had a lot of fun learning about yours, because as of this podcast recording, I have not been able to get the audiobook yet. I'm going to do that at some point in the next few weeks or so. But because for me, I do everything in audiobook form now. I just can't read books anymore. I can't concentrate on them. Mm-hmm. So anyway, but yeah, spoiler alert, it'll be out in select theaters December 2nd. And it was just an amazing piece of film. Oh. And your story and Kit's story, I'm so sorry. It really sucks losing people. And I mean, I guess technically I just spoiled the entire film, but that's your story. And I'm just so sorry, man. It just, oh God. But the film, folks, you people listening to the sound of my voice, you will enjoy this film, because before you came on the line, I was like, oh, Jim Parsons, like I've already said. He has done three things that I absolutely love. Now, sometimes I get frustrated with Sheldon, but Sheldon's a character. But I love The Big Bang Theory. I loved him as O in Home from DreamWorks, the animated movie. Mm-hmm. And I loved him in the play Playing God.
Oh, I didn't see that.
Oh my God! I'll have to see if I can find some YouTube clips. I wish I could find his whole thing, like the whole play that he does. But yeah, playing God. When I first found out about this, I was like, oh my God, it's like Sheldon, but he's supposed to be God, and then for like whatever like follow up performance. And I'm not dissing the person, but they got Sean Hayes instead of him for the second version. I personally don't like that version, but yeah, Jim Parsons in playing God was I just love it so much. Spoiler alert, like I said, folks, I've been said it like 4 times now since we came back from the break. December 2nd, check it out. It's an awesome movie. You'll enjoy it. I'm going to run through this really quick because Michael has dinner reservations and we're going to get the heck out of here. So thank you for joining us here on ToyCast. If you'd like to get in contact with us or leave feedback for the show, there are several ways to do so. Visit the website, geekcastradio.com, where you can listen to and comment on all of our content. Send an email to feedback@geekcastradio.com. You can check us out on any podcasting platform you choose to use. I personally use Spotify because it has the best UI for me, but that's just me. Follow us on Twitter at Geekcast Radio for the network, at TFToycast for the show. I am at TFG and Mike. You can, as he said, follow him on Twitter at Michael Ausiello or Instagram at Michael Ausiello. Become a fan on Facebook. Go to facebook.com/Geekcast Radio Network. You can also check out TF Toycast over there as well. Next time, what do we have next time? I think we have the Poppin' Duo, Vince and Bree, but I'm not sure. So we'll just have to wait and see for that. For now, I am TFG and Mike with
Michael Ausiello.
Join us next time when we'll be talking more toys here on ToyCast.
All for Smurf and Smurf for all.
All for Smurf and Smurf for all.
Where are we going, Michael?
We're going home, kid. With family. We're going to the Foundation.